origins of international 15-a-side rugby are a source of great pride for everyone connected with Scottish rugby. And today, as patron of the Scottish Rugby Union, I join the celebrations of true sporting trailblazers.
Rain poured at Rome's Stadio Olimpico as Scotland and Italy battled in brutal Six Nations conditions. Players slipped across the waterlogged pitch, fighting for every meter. Then something unexpected happened. Something that would make headlines worldwide and remind us why certain royals command respect beyond borders. During a second-half stoppage, stadium cameras found Princess Anne sitting quietly among spectators. At 75, dressed simply, the Scottish Rugby Union patron of nearly 2 decades wasn't in a royal box. She was just watching the match as she'd done hundreds of times in conditions that would have sent most people home. Rain dripped from the roof. The temperature had dropped. Scotland were losing. Yet there she sat, as committed as any die-hard fan. When her image appeared on the big screen, something remarkable unfolded. The entire stadium, divided by fierce national pride, suddenly united. Italians and Scots rose together in spontaneous appreciation. The game became secondary to something far more meaningful. That's what happened in Rome. Those unforgettable seconds captured hearts worldwide, reminding us that true dedication never goes unnoticed, even when it seeks no recognition. The moment that stopped a stadium. A ripple moved through the crowd. One section began to applaud, then another. Within seconds, that applause transformed into something extraordinary. Thousands upon thousands of fans from both nations rose to their feet. The roar that filled the Stadio Olimpico wasn't for a spectacular try or a match-winning tackle. It was for a woman who has spent decades quietly serving British sport with a dedication that most of us can barely imagine. The ovation grew louder. It echoed off the ancient stone and modern steel of the stadium. Italian fans applauded alongside Scottish supporters. Rival nations, in the middle of a fiercely contested match, had found common ground. And at the center of it all sat Princess Anne, looking genuinely puzzled, apparently unaware that this thunderous appreciation was directed at her. According to spectators seated nearby, she initially thought the crowd was reacting to something on the pitch. Can you imagine being so humble, so unassuming, that even when tens of thousands of people are standing and applauding you, your first instinct is to assume it must be for someone else? That's not false modesty. That's not playing to cameras. That's simply who she is. It was only when the people around her began gesturing, smiling, and pointing toward the big screen that realization dawned. The cameras had focused on her. The stadium was on its feet. This moment, unexpected and unscripted, was about recognizing her decades of unwavering commitment to rugby, to sport, to showing up regardless of weather, results, or personal convenience. Her response? A modest, polite smile. No grand wave, no theatrical gesture, no standing to milk the applause. Just a quiet acknowledgement. The kind of understated grace we've come to expect from one of the hardest-working members of the royal family. And somehow that restraint made the moment even more powerful. Why? Because this wasn't orchestrated. It wasn't part of any official ceremony. Nobody had planned for the cameras to find her. Nobody had scripted this moment of appreciation. It happened organically, spontaneously, from the hearts of rugby fans who recognized someone special when they saw her. The decades of dedication behind the ovation. To understand why this moment resonated so deeply, we need to understand Princess Anne's relationship with rugby, and more specifically with Scottish rugby. This isn't a story of ceremonial patronage or photo opportunities. This is a story of genuine, decades-long commitment that has earned her legendary status within the sport. Princess Anne officially opened the East Stand at Murrayfield in 1983, over 40 years ago. Think about that for a moment. Many of the players currently representing Scotland weren't even born when she first began her formal involvement with Scottish rugby. Yet season after season, championship after championship, she has been there. Rain or shine, victory or defeat, triumph or heartbreak. She became patron of the Scottish Rugby Union nearly 2 decades ago, but her presence at matches stretches back even further. And here's what makes her different from so many other ceremonial patrons. She actually knows the sport. She engages with players, not just for photo opportunities, but in genuine conversation. She speaks with officials about development programs and grassroots initiatives. She understands the technical aspects of the game. She remembers faces, names, and past performances. Within rugby circles, those who have interacted with her describe her support as anything but ceremonial. One former Scottish international, speaking on condition of anonymity, once said that talking to Princess Anne about rugby was like talking to someone who had been following the sport as obsessively as any fan. She knew the history. She understood the tactics. She cared about the future of the game at every level, from elite international competition down to youth development programs. This kind of genuine engagement is rare. How many of us show up for things we're passionate about when conditions are perfect? When our team is winning, when it's convenient? How many of us maintain that commitment when it's raining sideways, when our team is losing, when nobody would blame us for staying home? Princess Anne has attended matches in brutal Scottish winters, in driving rain, in conditions that test the resolve of even the most dedicated supporters. And she doesn't just attend the big matches. She's been spotted at club games, at youth tournaments, at events that won't make headlines or generate media coverage. Because her commitment isn't about publicity. It's about the sport itself and the people who play it. That long-standing, authentic loyalty is what sparked such a heartfelt reaction in Rome. The fans in that stadium, both Italian and Scottish, weren't applauding a title or a crown. They were applauding dedication. They were applauding someone who has championed their sport, not because she had to, but because she genuinely cares. The brutal context of a difficult match. Now let's return to the match itself, because the context makes this moment even more poignant. This wasn't a joyful occasion for Scotland. This wasn't a victory lap or a celebration. This was a frustrating, difficult match that would ultimately end in defeat. Italy had come out firing from the opening whistle. The conditions were atrocious, with rain making the ball slippery and the pitch treacherous. But Italy adapted better in the early stages. Jacopo Trulli crossed the line after finishing a delicate grubber kick from Juan Ignacio Brex, stunning the Scottish defence with a moment of sublime skill in terrible conditions. The Scottish fans in the stadium groaned. This wasn't the start they had hoped for, and things were about to get worse. Moments later, Tommaso Menoncello broke clear down the left wing after a defensive lapse, extending Italy's early dominance. The home crowd roared with belief. Scotland, who had come to Rome hoping to build momentum in their championship campaign, were suddenly on the back foot, struggling to find any rhythm in the sodden conditions. Handling errors crept into the Scottish game. Momentum shifted back and forth like a pendulum. Jack Dempsey powered over from close range to give Scotland hope. His try met with relieved cheers from the traveling support. Paolo Garbisi's boot kept Italy ahead going into halftime, and the rain continued to pour. The second half brought late drama. Finn Russell, Scotland's mercurial fly half, began to find his range with penalties, narrowing the gap and giving his team a glimmer of hope. George Horne then dived over to pull Scotland within just 3 points. The tension in the stadium was unbearable. Scottish fans, soaked to the skin, roared their team forward. Italian supporters, equally drenched, urged their heroes to hold firm. It was edge-of-your-seat rugby, the kind of match where every play matters, where one moment of brilliance or one crucial error could decide everything. And it was during an injury stoppage in this tense, dramatic second half that the cameras found Princess Anne. Think about the timing. Scotland were chasing the game. Every second mattered. Fans were on edge, nerves frayed, hearts pounding. This should have been a moment where nobody cared about anything except what was happening on the pitch. Yet when that familiar face appeared on the big screen, something deeper took over. The ovation wasn't about rugby in that moment. It was about recognizing someone who embodies the very best of what sport should be about: commitment, loyalty, and showing up regardless of the circumstances. Even in a stadium divided by fierce national rivalry, even in the middle of a crucial championship match, fans from both sides could recognize and appreciate those qualities. When the world stopped to watch, social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the ovation went viral across platforms. "Pure class," wrote one user. "This is what genuine respect looks like," commented another. Fans from around the world, many who had never heard of Princess Anne's involvement with rugby, were struck by the spontaneity and warmth of the moment. "You don't see this often," wrote an Italian rugby journalist. "A stadium divided by national loyalties, united in appreciation. That's rare. That's special." Others noted her reaction, or rather her lack of showmanship. "No performative humility," one commentator observed. "Just genuine surprise. You can't fake that. She really didn't expect it." And perhaps that's the most striking detail of all. In an age where every public moment is calculated, where image management is paramount, where royals are often accused of being out of touch or performative, here was something refreshingly authentic. A crowd expressing genuine appreciation. A royal genuinely surprised by the affection. No script, no planning, just a human moment. The video clips spread across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook with remarkable speed. Within hours, major news outlets were running the story. Television networks interrupted regular programming to show the footage. Commentators and pundits weighed in from every angle. What was it about this particular moment that captured global attention so completely? Perhaps it was the authenticity. Perhaps it was the reminder that dedication and consistency still matter in our fast-paced, short attention span world. Or perhaps it was simply the beautiful simplicity of watching thousands of people, without prompting or coordination, decide simultaneously to honor someone who had earned their respect through decades of quiet service. A week of sporting dedication. But this wasn't Princess Anne's only major sporting appearance that week. Just days earlier, she had attended the Winter Olympic opening ceremony in Milan alongside her husband, Sir Timothy Lawrence. Cameras captured the couple enthusiastically waving to Team GB at San Siro, another reminder that her dedication to British sport spans disciplines and generations. From Olympic arenas to rain-soaked rugby stadiums, from summer sports to winter events, her presence is steady, reliable, and deeply valued. She doesn't pick and choose based on convenience or weather. She doesn't appear only when Britain is winning or when the spotlight is brightest. She shows up consistently, because that's what commitment looks like. At 75 years old, she maintains a schedule that would exhaust people half her age. She is widely recognized as one of the hardest-working members of the royal family, often completing more engagements in a year than almost any other royal. Yet, she does it with minimal fanfare, avoiding the celebrity-style coverage that follows some of her relatives. Consider what her week looked like. Olympic opening ceremony in Milan, travel to Rome, attending a Six Nations match in terrible weather conditions, all while maintaining her regular schedule of patronages and engagements. How many 75-year-olds do you know who maintain that kind of pace? How many would choose to sit in a rain-soaked stadium when they could easily watch from the comfort of a heated royal box or even from home? But that's not Princess Anne's style. She's there, in the stands, experiencing the match as the fans experience it, getting wet when they get wet, feeling the tension when they feel it, sharing in the disappointment when her team loses. That's not obligation, that's passion. A different kind of royal service. In many ways, Princess Anne represents a different era of royal duty, an era where service meant exactly that. Service. Not brand building, not media management, not Instagram followers or viral moments. Just showing up, doing the work, supporting the causes and organizations that depend on royal patronage, and doing it all with quiet dignity and unwavering consistency. That approach has earned her a reputation that transcends traditional royal watching. People who couldn't care less about the monarchy often make an exception for Princess Anne. Why? Because her actions speak louder than titles. Because her commitment is visible and genuine. Because she treats everyone, from elite athletes to grassroots volunteers, with the same respect and engagement. The contrast with modern celebrity culture couldn't be starker. In a world of influencers and personal brands, of carefully curated images and performative authenticity, Princess Anne simply does her job. She doesn't seek viral moments, yet somehow they find her. She doesn't chase headlines, yet she generates them through simple dedication. There's something profoundly countercultural about her approach in 2025. We live in an age of constant self-promotion, where success is often measured in followers, likes, and media mentions, where people carefully craft their public image and manage every interaction for maximum impact, where authenticity itself has become a performance. Against this backdrop, Princess Anne stands as a quiet rebuke to the entire culture. She doesn't have a public social media presence. She doesn't give interviews about her personal life. She doesn't seek to be relatable or accessible in the modern sense. She simply works, consistently and without fanfare, letting her actions speak for themselves. And the remarkable thing? It works, perhaps even better than the modern approach. Because when respect is earned rather than demanded, when appreciation is spontaneous rather than manufactured, it carries a weight that no amount of careful image management can replicate. The aftermath of defeat. As for Scotland, the match would end in frustrating fashion. Italy held on for an 18-15 victory, leaving Scottish fans devastated, and their team's championship campaign facing serious questions. Gregor Townsend's side now had to regroup and face tough questions about consistency and composure in crucial moments. The post-match analysis would be brutal. Why couldn't Scotland close out tight games? What tactical adjustments were needed? How could they recover from another heartbreaking loss? These are the questions that would dominate rugby coverage in the days following the match. For the Scottish players, the defeat was crushing. They had come so close, clawing their way back into the game despite Italy's strong start. George Horne's try had given them genuine hope. Finn Russell's penalties had kept them in touching distance. But it wasn't enough. In the end, Italy's early dominance and their ability to manage the closing stages proved decisive. The changing room would be a somber place. Players who had left everything on that rain-soaked pitch would now have to process another loss, another missed opportunity. Coaches would analyze what went wrong and how to fix it. Media would ask difficult questions. Fans would express frustration and disappointment. But here's the remarkable thing. Long after the final whistle faded, it wasn't the scoreline dominating online conversations. It wasn't the tactical analysis or the player ratings or the championship implications. It was that standing ovation. It was Princess Anne's surprised smile. It was the moment when a stadium united, when sport transcended results and reminded us why we love it in the first place. Because sport, at its best, isn't just about winning and losing. It's about community, tradition, and the people who dedicate themselves to making it better. Princess Anne has been one of those people for decades. And that night in Rome, thousands of rugby fans took a moment to acknowledge it. Lessons in authentic leadership. In near-farcical weather conditions, as rain lashed the pitch and tension filled the air, rugby supporters from both nations paused to recognize someone who has championed their sport quietly and consistently for decades. They created a memory that transcended the scoreboard, a moment that reminded us what genuine respect looks like when it's freely given. What can we learn from this unexpected viral moment? Perhaps that authenticity still resonates in our media-saturated age. Perhaps that quiet dedication ultimately commands more respect than loud self-promotion. Perhaps that showing up consistently and without fanfare is its own form of excellence. Or perhaps the lesson is simpler, that when you genuinely care about something, when you commit to it through good times and bad, when you show up regardless of convenience or recognition, people notice, they appreciate it, and sometimes when you least expect it, they rise to their feet and show you exactly what your dedication means to them. Princess Anne wasn't in Rome seeking validation or appreciation. She was there doing what she's done for decades, supporting Scottish rugby, watching her team compete, and being present regardless of the conditions or likely outcome. The fact that thousands of fans spontaneously decided to honor that commitment speaks volumes, not just about her, but about what we value when we look beyond the noise of modern media. At a time when royal headlines often focus on controversy, division, and speculation, this was something refreshingly different. No scandal, no drama, no carefully managed PR moment. Just a simple human interaction, a crowd expressing appreciation, and a woman genuinely touched by unexpected affection. A legacy built on presence. The moment has already taken its place among the great unexpected sporting moments, filed alongside celebrations, protests, and those rare instances when something transcendent happens in a stadium. It will be replayed in highlight reels and anniversary coverage. It will be referenced in tributes and retrospectives. Future Scottish rugby teams will hear about it, and perhaps it will inspire them to emulate not just Princess Anne's dedication, but the spirit of unity and respect that filled the Stadio Olimpico that rainy night. For those who were there, it's a moment they'll carry forever. Italian and Scottish fans, usually divided by fierce rivalry, united in appreciation. Players on both teams, for a brief moment, secondary to something larger. And at the center of it all, a 75-year-old woman who has spent her life in service, caught genuinely off guard by spontaneous affection. This is Princess Anne's legacy, built not through grand gestures or theatrical moments, but through decades of consistent, unglamorous work. Through showing up in the rain, through knowing players' names and following youth development programs, through treating grassroots volunteers with the same respect as international stars, through never seeking the spotlight, but earning respect through simple, steadfast dedication. The standing ovation in Rome wasn't planned. It wasn't choreographed. It wasn't part of any official ceremony. It happened because rugby fans, in that moment, wanted to express something that doesn't often get expressed: gratitude for someone who has given so much to their sport, asking nothing in return except the privilege of watching it and supporting it. Why authenticity wins. In our cynical age, where authenticity is questioned and motives are suspected, this moment stood out precisely because it was so obviously genuine on both sides. The fans weren't applauding because they were supposed to. Princess Anne wasn't performing humility for cameras. It was real, unscripted, and beautiful in its simplicity. And perhaps that's why it's gone viral. Perhaps that's why millions of people who will never attend a rugby match, who couldn't name a single Scottish player, who have only a passing interest in the royal family, have watched and shared this clip. Because in a world of manufactured moments and carefully curated content, we recognize authenticity when we see it. We hunger for it. We celebrate it. The game paused, and respect took center stage. A royal moment, unscripted. A stadium united. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful tributes are the ones no one plans, emerging spontaneously from genuine appreciation and decades of earned respect. Princess Anne will return to her regular schedule of engagements, attending events, supporting charities, and showing up for the causes she champions. She won't dwell on this moment or seek to replicate it. That's not who she is. She'll simply continue doing what she's always done, her duty with quiet dignity and unwavering commitment. But for those who witnessed it, whether in person or through viral clips shared around the world, the message is clear. True respect isn't demanded or manufactured. It's earned through consistent action over time. It's built through showing up, especially when it's difficult or inconvenient. It's demonstrated through genuine engagement, rather than performative gestures. The power of showing up. The Stadio Olimpico in Rome, on a rain-soaked evening during a tense Six Nations match, became the venue for something rare and beautiful, a moment when sport reminded us of its power to unite, to inspire, and to recognize excellence in forms beyond scores and championships. Princess Anne stunned, genuinely surprised, and clearly moved by an ovation she never sought. Thousands of fans from rival nations on their feet in spontaneous appreciation. A reminder that sometimes, just sometimes, we get it right. We recognize dedication. We appreciate commitment. We honor those who serve without seeking recognition. And in that moment, Rome belonged to a 75-year-old woman who has spent her life showing up, doing the work, and embodying the very best of what royal service can be. Not through titles or ceremony, but through simple, steadfast dedication to the things she believes in. That's a legacy worth standing for. That's a moment worth remembering. And that's why, long after Scotland's defeat has faded from memory, long after this Six Nations championship has concluded, people will remember the night when an entire stadium rose as one to honor Princess Anne. Because sometimes, the most powerful moments have nothing to do with the game itself. Sometimes they're about recognizing the people who make the game possible, who support it through decades, who show up in the rain simply because they care. And when those moments happen spontaneously, born from genuine appreciation rather than obligation or ceremony, they remind us why sport matters, why dedication matters, and why showing up consistently and authentically is its own form of greatness. The rain continued to fall in Rome. The match continued. Scotland would lose. But nobody who was there will ever forget what happened when the cameras found Princess Anne, and an entire stadium decided, without prompting or planning, to show her exactly what her decades of dedication meant to them. Pure, spontaneous, genuine, and absolutely unforgettable.